All right, welcome into the YouTube edition of Prep Picks. We've got the gang here, Andrew, Casey, myself, Steve from ESPN Tri-Cities and TriCitiesSports.com. I'll get your plug in there. And Cole. And last week, three of us were tied for the lead. Cole with his big upset pick of Elizabeth.
You're welcome very much.
And Andrew and I, thanks to the big win by South Greene, we are all 5-2, and then the two guys on either side of me are 4-3, so still wide open early in the season.
Good to have some company in the basement.
That's right.
Hey, everybody's above 500, so it's a good start.
Should have chose with me last week.
For once, Andrew, I'll say you were right.
Well, you could just say I was right.
You were right too, Heather.
All right, we've got a ton of games to get through, so we're going to fire through these kind of quickly, but we'll do some of the games that we did on the TV show like we did before, and then we'll also do some additional games on each side of the state line. Virginia joining the party this week, but we're going to start with a game in Tennessee. West Ridge at Boone. Andrew, who you got?
Daniel Boone didn't score any points last week against Clyde Irwin out of North Carolina. That will certainly change this week, and I think Boone wins pretty handily.
Casey?
I like Daniel Boone as well. I don't think they're going to lose back-to-back home games. Last year, they blew out West Ridge. Much closer this time, but I like Boone at home.
Cole?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit closer, but there's still that pretty big gap. I got Boone winning. They're not going to get shut out again.
Yeah, Boone was supposed to struggle on defense, and they only gave up 7 points. West Ridge lost its running back, its safety, its place kicker, and punter in the first quarter. That's all the same guy, Emilio Hogate. Emotionally, how do they respond to that? It's going to put an even bigger load on quarterback Trey Frazier. I like Boone's defense to step up and win this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a really good sign for Daniel Boone that their defense played as well as it did, because that was the big question mark. I think that they are going to be in good shape. I'm also picking Boone. All right, a game that everybody is excited about, especially this guy in the end, but that's why I'm going to let you go last. Tennessee High at Sullivan East. This is a game that we have not seen in a long time. Casey, thoughts on the game and the winner?
Yeah, 2010, the last time they played, that was the first year I was here, and I don't remember that one about a month after I started working here. So I won't be there this week, but I'm glad to see these two schools playing. Again, I like Tennessee High. Really impressed with how they held their own with Greeneville at the line of scrimmage. I think they will wear down the Patriots. I like Tennessee High to get the win.
Cool.
This was one that I had to toss up all week long. I went back and forth. I agree with Casey on that. Tennessee, I think they showed a little bit by hanging with Greeneville and not letting that thing get way too out of hand. But I like Sullivan East in this one. I don't know why. I have a gut feeling. They held on to, a comfortable lead last week, almost let it go. I think they come out, and I think you have the, up front where Tennessee might have the advantage. I think Sullivan East might try to toss it outside a little bit more.
Steve?
East coach J.C. Simmons was at that 2010 game. He was scouting for Emory and Henry, some East players. He's been scouting Tennessee High this week. Drake Fisher and company. Fisher threw for 280 yards, 3 touchdowns last week at Johnson County. I think East can score. I think Tennessee's High's offense is going to get untracked with quarterback Jimmy Phipps. The good thing for Sullivan East, it's been so long, these players haven't really had to hear a lot about this rivalry and how lopsided it has been. So don't watch me and hear about it. But I think still Tennessee High just a little bit too much. I think East can win this football game. I think the Vikings have just a little too much for the Patriots, though.
Andrew?
This one, I've got all the stats. So you ready for it? East 0-42 all time against the Vikings. Crazy statistic. It's just unheard of. So every team has to win once. And, this is a game that's at East. Talk to Coach Simmons. They're bringing in extra bleachers for this game. They expect the place to be packed. And for that reason, and going with the East in that, I think 1-42 be the record after Friday night.
A 16 did eventually be the 1 seed, right?
They did.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to happen this time. I like Tennessee High as well. I love what East is doing, but I wanted to see more out of that offense in week 1 than I saw in Mountain City. I think that's a tough place to play, Johnson County, but I just don't think they're on the level yet to compete with a 4A school. But we'll see. Prove me wrong for sure. All right. Big game this week. I think it's a game that you are very familiar with this week because that is our rivals game. That is Greenville at Dobbins-Bennett. So you're going to go last this time. Kind of bring up the big stat, hopefully, like Andrew had. Steve, we'll have you go first this time.
Yeah, look back at that Dobbins-Bennett game last week. Really dominated statistically against Farragut. Outgained the Admirals 355 to 202. Ran 33 offensive plays to 11. In the first half, outrushed the Admirals 184 to 34, but the special teams Opening kickoff and a big pass play on the second play of the game hurt Dobbins Bennett. They did fight back to make it 17-17. Then safety Nigel Vidal goes out with a head injury. Farragut goes 87 yards, I think, in the last minute and a half. 3 plays of over 20 yards or more. How does that factor in trying to stop that Greenville passing game? I think that's a hindrance for Dobbins Bennett. I like quarterback Corbin Cannon. I like the wide receiver Carson Quillen. Dobbins Bennett couldn't strike down a Virginia High baseball commit in Landis Davila last week for Farragut. Now they've got to try to do it again. And Quillen, who made that big 2-point conversion stop last year to win at Dobbins Bennett. I think Greenville wins this one. I'm going to have to step across party lines. I apologize for that. I'm a game behind. It is a competition. That's my deal.
Yes, be kind, Dobbins Bennett people. Cole, who you like?
Yeah, Cannon and Quillen. Quite a dynamic duo that we saw last week in week 1. You know, until they prove me otherwise, Greenville has my card in this one. I think it's going to be a little better of a game. I think Dobbins Bennett comes out pretty well after considering what happened. Like Steve mentioned, the way that game started, we could be having a completely different conversation this week if they don't make those errors early on. So I think it's going to be a better game, but I'm going with Greenville all the way.
Andrew?
Greenville, kind of missed one of them. Emmanuel Dixon, that's the heart and soul of Greenville's defense. And I think Greenville's D, they're a tough team. They also, I kind of got the vibe from that Tennessee High game. They kind of took out who they needed to take out to rest for this one. I think Eddie Spradlin's going to have his group prepped and ready, and I think they'll win again for a second straight year at J. Fred.
Casey, I know you're excited to have this one on Rivals.
Yeah, it's a great one to kick off the season. I know Steve and I'll be, I guess, one level above Steve on Friday night up in the tower.
There's only like 27 levels in Dobbins Bennett, right?
Yeah, we'll be one above. One thing I think that could be in Dobbins Bennett's favor is how hot it's going to be. They have more guys that only play one way than Greenville does. There's a lot more players who play both ways. I know that is something Eddie Spradlin's concerned about, how many of their guys play both ways, but I ultimately think their running game really didn't break out last week against Tennessee High. They were getting 4 to 5 yards, but no chunk plays in the running game. I think they're going to get a couple in the running game this week to go along with maybe 1 or 2 pass plays for big distance. I think Greenville gets the win over Dobbins Bennett, who might even be better served after playing, even though they're 0-2. I still would not worry about the Indians once they get into region play if they lose this one.
I said this on the TV show. Greenville may be a Class 4A school, but they never have played like one. I think that they will win until they prove me otherwise. I'm with Cole. Beat them, and then we can put you in the conversation. All right, let's talk about a couple of games in Virginia, starting with a great rivalry game. 2 teams that don't really like each other that much. They're pretty close in location. I think one of the head coaches said in our previews it's like playing your Super Bowl first. Honaker at Lebanon. Cole, who do you like?
So this is my first seeing Southwest Virginia football for the first time, so I'm pretty excited about that. This is a good one to get started. I'm going to go with Honaker in this one. I think we heard them in the season preview that this is one of their most athletic teams they've had. They like to spread it out. Steve mentioned earlier they scored over 33 points per game last year. I think we're going to see the same kind of thing. They're looking to score points. If this is a battle of points and a high-scoring game, I think they have the edge over Lebanon.
Andrew?
Honaker, they've got a lot of weapons. Peyton Music at quarterback, Parker Bandy at wide receiver, then Mr. Aiden Lowe. That kid has a chance to probably be an all-state player this year for the Tigers. And, I will go with this cold take right here. Honaker will be playing in the region championship, and they will be winning against Lebanon week 1.
Well, you hope it's a hot take.
Hot take. Yeah, hot take.
It's a cold take, and it hasn't gone well for you. Casey?
Last year, this game also opening on a Thursday like they did last year. Lebanon went to Honaker and won. I think this year they reverse. Honaker goes to Lebanon and gets the win, even though Mike Reese, the quarterback for Lebanon, a very good player as well, just a sophomore. But I think Honaker gets the win on the road. A little payback for last year.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Andrew mentioned Aiden Lowe, 2,100 all-purpose yards last year. Music, almost 2,000 yards through the air, 25 touchdowns. Here's what I know about Lebanon. My son Parker has been working at the Russell County Courthouse construction site this week, okay? You're in trouble, okay? I'm going with Honaker on the win here.
I am going with Honaker, but not for that reason. Lebanon has had to move back up to Class 2 this year, but they're really size-wise pretty comparable size schools. So I don't think that's as big a factor as it might be in some other games. I think Lebanon's going to be incredibly talented. They've got a lot of guys back from last year, but I think Honaker my take is hot, unlike Andrew's, has a chance to be special this year. And so I like the Tigers as well. All right, Lehigh at Union. Let's see. Since Union loves you so much, Steve, I'm going to let you go first.
Well, she placed me behind this beautiful Union Bears helmet for a reason, okay? Lee, last couple of years, vastly improved. 4 wins, 2021, 6 in 2022, returned 6 starters on both sides of the ball, including Brian Pendergraft, the third-year starting quarterback. But Union also has multi-talented Rashawn Anderson, some good running backs back. They can fill some holes in the offensive line. Union will have a great season. And maybe I should just put this thing on, you know?
Go for it.
Suit up and go for it right here. I'm going Bears, baby.
The real mayor of Big Stone Gap, by the way, is on the other side of me. Casey, who do you like?
Andrew.
Oh, no, it's you. They love you in Big Stone.
Well, we'll be up there later this season for Friday Night Rivals, another shameless plug, but that'll be in mid-September when Gate City comes to town. But before that, they got a little business. Lehigh, I like Union to get the win. Lehigh will be fighting, I think, this year to get into the playoffs. I don't believe they made it last year. I think they might have just missed out, but I like Union to get this win in Ben-Hur on Friday, Andrew.
You mean in Big Stone?
Oh, I thought it was a road game.
No, Big Stone,
okay,
yeah.
my bad.
We're going, yeah, but so, another thing, those Generals did make the playoffs too.
They did make the playoffs.
Yeah,
last year?
played
Okay.
Virginia High, yeah. So I'm gonna
Andrew's the biggest cheerleader for Lehigh.
I am. I loved going up there last year. I loved going to Ben-Hur. It was a great atmosphere at that stadium. They had played a great game against Rye Cove last year. It was a game I got to cover. I think Lehigh will make the playoffs once again this year, but I don't think they get the win Friday night against Union. They will get a couple more this year, and that will definitely get them in.
Cool.
Yeah, we saw these two play last year in the opener too. Just too much of a gap there. I know we don't. It's a new season, but I think that gap is too big for them to kind of climb and close that and win that one this year. I'm going to go Union.
I was really high on Lehigh coming into the season because I felt like they're really starting to move up and improve, and I think they are going to have an improved season. But I was really surprised that they lost their benefit game. Now, I don't know what happened, who played, it's a benefit game, so who knows. But the results surprised me a little bit, and so I was going to give them a little bit of a consideration in this, but I think just based on that and the fact that Union is always Union, that I'm going to give the edge to the Bears. But I think it has the potential to be a really good game. Marion at Chilhowie, another game of two teams that don't like each other very much. They're very close. And Andrew, I know you're going to be at this game on Friday, so I'm going to let you have first pick.
So another crazy stat line in this one too. Somebody is going to break a losing streak in this one, and both have been a pretty long losing streak. Chilhowie hasn't won a football game in 11 straight games, so it's been a while since they won. Marion, about as long, not as long, 9 games. So somebody's going to get a win this Friday. It's a tough Smith County game. Reed Sturgill for Chilhowie be taking over his first time as head coach. Marion, they've got a good team. I mean, Austin Coe committed to Air Force, that big tight end. I think this one is going to be close, and I think the only reason I'm going to pick them is because it's being played at home. Chilhowie gets a win, close one. I could see this going bad snap, safety, something crazy to end this game, and that's how the team wins. And for that reason, I'll go Chilhowie Friday night.
I'll take Marion to get the win. I believe their quarterback is an Air Force commit, I think I've seen.
Austin Coe, yeah, the tight end,
Yeah, so I'll take Marion to get the win.
You got...
The reason these teams did not win much last year is they can't score. They couldn't score with a pencil. I mean, Chilhowie averaged 10 points. Marion averaged 15. But the defenses, it was Chilhowie allowing 40 and Marion 13. So I'm going to take Marion. Did I take Marion on the TV show? I got to take the same one, right? I can't switch.
You could switch if you want.
You've got to have 2 different records.
Well, you would.
I'm all about consistency.
Hey, if you do want to switch, Steve, their benefit game, Chilhowie did play the benefit game against Tazewell. Played really close, lost 33-19. So that's another reason I'm kind of going with that on this.
Well, I don't know anything about benefit games. I mean, I'm sure that the bank benefited from the game. That's what it's all about.
I mean, that's why they play it.
I'm going to stick with Marion. I'm going to go with that. So
Cool.
Sorry, Andrew, but no.
You stole the names right out of my mouth. Austin Coe, that's a big-time player right there. And they have a third-year returning quarterback, Reed Osborne. There's a good group of seniors there in Marion. I got to go to their practice last weekend. Talk with second-year head coach Jack Ginn. He has some college experience coaching. Came here to Marion. He's ready to turn this thing around. They laid the foundation down. He doesn't think they're quite there yet, but they're getting there. And I think they do have some tough dudes up front. They're only allowing 13 points per game last year on defense. It's going to be another toss-up. I think it could, like Andrew said, could be a bad snap, good fumble or something to decide this one, but I'm going to go Marion.
Last week, Andrew, I climbed out on the limb with you, and it paid off. Not going to do it this week. I'm also picking Marion for all the reasons that have been said. All right, let's go back to Tennessee for a game. Unicoi County at Happy Valley. Both these teams looking for their first win of the season. Casey?
Yeah, both lost last week close. I think Unicoi lost by a touchdown and Happy Valley by 2 points. I like Unicoi County. Maybe take a little frustration out against Happy Valley. I like the Blue Devils.
Yeah, both teams a little frustrated they didn't get that opening night win. Both had a chance. Happy Valley's 2-point conversion, the tie denied. Unicoi had an early lead, couldn't hold it. Unicoi's won the last 4 in this series by a pretty good margin. I think they make it 5.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Blue Devils in this one, too. Happy Valley, they showed some guts last week to come back, almost tied it up, but I'm going to go with Unicoi.
For discipline played a big factor in Happy Valley's loss last week. They had a lot of flags. Believe it or not, they actually did tie the game, and a holding call called back at the first 2-point conversion, and then they had to go back 10 yards. So when you have to go back 10 yards, it's not always easy to get that 2-point conversion the second time. Unicoi County, Drew Rice always has his team discipline, and I think discipline will be a big reason Friday night that the Blue Devils get a victory.
So I'm high on both these teams, right? I thought going into the year that both of them were going to be improved. I was really high on Unicoi County. Kind of disappointed that they both lost because it made me look bad, right? I mean, I like both these guys. I think Unicoi County, though, just based on last year, how many kids they have coming back, how many kids they have, period. There's like 70 kids on that roster, which is huge for a Class 3A school. I think Unicoi County is just going to have way too much depth for Happy Valley, and they're going to be able to put this game away pretty early. But I'm still pretty high on Happy Valley. I think they're going to have an improved season. All right. Tennis, let's go back to Virginia. We're going to flip-flop back and forth now. J.I. Burton at Ridgeview. Everything on paper says this is David versus Goliath, Class 2 versus Class 1. But does everybody agree? I'll start with Casey this time.
Yeah, I'll take Ridgeview. Certainly they won the Mountain 7 last year. I like the Wolfpack, their quarterback back this year, O'Quinn. Yeah, so I like Ridgeview to get the win.
Andrew?
Speaking of quarterbacks, J.I. Burton for a second straight year lost their quarterback, what looks to be for the season. It's a big loss. I know that Coach really wanted to have him back this year. Like you said, O'Quinn, he was a dog last year for Ridgeview. There's no better way to put it. He was game in and game out an X factor for them. And Ridgeview, I think he'll be an X factor again this year for them, and they'll get the win Friday night.
Cool.
Yeah, I think this kind of goes against 11-win team last year, and the experience they have winning those games versus a team that was the middle of the pack. I think we're going to see the same kind of thing in this one. You can't discount the Mountain 7 champion coming back here for year 2. Ridgeview is going to win.
Quinn is coming back for sure for what seems like his, 6th year already? But nonetheless,
That's what happens when you start as a freshman.
Exactly. The Wolfpack did lose its entire offensive line and top running back, so there's some holes there. But Burton's going to start, as you mentioned, a freshman quarterback, probably 2 freshman running backs, some young people up front, so they're not quite there yet. Look, O'Quinn's coming back, okay? Ridgeview's going to win.
There was a time where J.I. Burton, you talked about this on the TV show, with Chilhowie always being an automatic kind of pencil in for a win. There was a time when Burton was that way too. They've got a little rebuilding to do. They are extremely young this year. Ridgeview, starting quarterback, 4-year starter. Like you said, it seems like an 8-year starter coming back. So, yeah, we'll make it a clean sweep for the Wolfpack. All right, 3 more games left to pick. We're giving the people what they want. We're giving them lots of games.
Lot of it.
All right. We may not do this every week, but first week for Virginia, we wanted to dig in. And there's some pretty interesting games, too, like this one that is a battle for Wise County bragging rights. Central at Eastside. We will start with Cole this time.
I'm going with Central. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. I mean, not knowing these two very well, just looking on paper, looking at some of the things talking to coaches before the season, I'm just going with Central on this one.
Yeah, Eastside only won 1 time last year, and they are bringing back a sophomore quarterback, Peyton Adkins, who I think is a pretty good player. But Wise Central lost 7 games last year. 5 of those were by a touchdown or less. I think they get better. They got a transfer quarterback coming in from Baltimore, a Nigerian kicker who I can't wait to hear you guys say on TV.
Not saying
I'm
it.
not saying it here. So I'm going to stick and go with the Warriors.
Casey.
I'll take Central to get the win.
Mike Rhodes and Eastside will get a couple more wins this year. Won't be against Central, though, on Friday night. I've got to go with the Warriors.
Yeah, I'll agree with Andrew there. I think Eastside's going to have a much improved season. Last year was kind of an anomaly for that program, but Central just, I mean, they're bigger, there's more kids. I just think that that's going to be a tough ask right out of the bat for Central. All right, one more game in Tennessee to pick. West Greene at Cloudland. Cloudland, a little bit of a surprise, I think, for all of us last week in their win over Happy Valley. So what do they have for an encore? Let's start with Steve.
Yeah, Highlanders got me last week, no doubt about it. These two teams want to run the football. West Greene ran for 253 last week. Cloudland had 212 total yards, every one on the ground. Both teams coming off wins, but West Greene, a 3A school, didn't play well last year in this game for Cloudland. It was 42-0 in favor of the Buffaloes. It won't be that, but it will be a Buffalo win.
Easy.
Yeah, West Greene, they shut out North Greene last week. Cloudland, we mentioned, I don't think any of us picked Cloudland to win last week. I think we all picked Happy Valley, so they proved us wrong. I'll say, just do it again this week. I'll take West Greene to get the win. Long trip, though, from Mossheim all the way up to Roan Mountain, but I think they'll get the win.
Cloudland, I mean, they proved me wrong last week, so for that reason, I'll go with them this week. I picked Cloudland. I mean, that's a tough game to go up to Roan Mountain, have the home fans yelling in your ears if you're West Greene right there with the way the bleacher setup is there, and that's not an easy place to play. And I think Cloudland, Zach Benfield, I mean, they have less numbers, but that offensive line and defensive line is physical, and they got the Birchfield brothers back there on offense, so Cloudland.
Andrew, you're either going to roar out to first place or it's going to be a tough sled for the rest of this week. Cole, yeah.
Well, I was going to say what Casey said was kind of like prove us wrong again. Sorry, Cloudland fans. Got to go again. Went against them last week. They got us in that one, but I'm going to go with West Greene. Pretty impressive week one with that 26-0 win. So, and one of the big plays that Cloudland won on was that big pick six. That was a crazy play. If that doesn't happen, probably having a different conversation.
Okay, how many Birchfields are there on Cloudland?
So they are the younger brothers of the oldest Birchfield. Yes.
I just feel like there's they just keep coming. More and more Birchfields and more, which has worked out really well for Cloudland, right? Because they have ridden that to success. I think I underestimated the pride in that program a little bit because of the numbers. I think they're probably going to have another outstanding season. They are always the class of Class 1A in this area. But West Greene, it's too big a ask. It's too big of a jump, especially with the numbers. So I'm also going to go with West Greene. All right, final game of the night on the Virginia side. Patrick Henry at Virginia High. We're going to start with Casey.
We just found out this game will be played at Gene Malkin Stadium. Weren't sure, but they did officially announce that, so the Bearcats will get to play at home. I know part of their home bleachers won't be in use, at least early on in the season. So really good, though, that this game is at home. Patrick Henry, they have a kid who's getting some Division I looks on the offensive line, just a junior. I believe Barrett is his last name.
Barrett, yeah.
Tyler Barrett. So certainly you think they might have the edge on the line of scrimmage with Patrick Henry, new quarterback for Virginia High this year with Brody Jones at Virginia Tech. I'm going to take Patrick Henry to get maybe a little bit of an upset win over Virginia High.
It's weird to say this, but Virginia High's benefit game, even though they lost 14-0, that makes me want to go pick Virginia High because the team they played in that benefit game, Gate City, and they allow 14 points against Gate City. That's pretty impressive, even with it just being a benefit game. I think the offense gets going, and Brody went down that last game. This quarterback's not an inexperienced quarterback for Virginia High. I think numbers will be a big thing too. Virginia High will have a few more numbers. I think that line, like you said, Tyler Barrett's going to be a problem for him, but Virginia High gets the win at home.
Cool.
This is probably my biggest toss-up, and I've already picked against Tennessee High twice, so I got to give some love to our Bristol people, and we're going to go over on the Virginia side. So I'm going to go with Virginia High at home.
Yeah, quarterback Deshaun Taylor did step in for Jones last year when he got hurt, and Virginia High returns a pretty good offensive line, some nice skill position players for him. Barrett, not only on the offensive side of the football for Patrick Henry, Region 1D Defensive Player of the Year, had 78 tackles last year, 20 sacks. Patrick Henry, the last 8 years, has produced 4 2,000-yard rushers, including each of the last 2 years. Cameron Godspeed will try to make it 3 for 3. I like Patrick Henry on the road here.
Yeah, this is a really interesting matchup for me just because you look at Virginia High, there's a lot of questions on that team, right? But they always have a way of finding skill players. They just always seem to get that offense rolling. The defense, I think, is going to be the question. And you mentioned how good Patrick Henry is at running the ball. can they slow Patrick Henry down on defense, I think is going to be the biggest thing. And I think right now, I don't think that they have the ability to do that. I think this might be, didn't they play once and the score of this game was like 60 to
66 to 40, yes.
I think we might see something along those lines again, but this time I like Patrick Henry to win that game. All right. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. Lots of games. We may not do this many games every week, but first week for Virginia, I wanted to give everybody a little bit of love. So, make sure you keep tuning in here on YouTube, and of course, check out the TV show, which runs Wednesdays at 5:30 and 11 on News, or 5:30 and 10 on News 5 and Fox 39 News at 10. All right, we'll see you next week.